Hi, my name's Christine and I'm a senior biology major at Gordon College. So I grew up within the church in the Midwest in a pretty conservative town. And so climate change wasn't really something that we talked a whole lot about. And so it wasn't until high school that I was really exposed to the issue. And in that class we read a little booklet by Dr. Dorothy Borst called Loving the Least of These. And it walked through like what climate change is, why it's an issue, and then also what the moral implications of that were. So talking about like how it impacts the poor and how they're often more disproportionately impacted than we are because if they're a subsistence farmer or something like that, they're more dependent on the land than I am. So I'm not your typical environmentalist. I remember growing up hearing that, don't care about the trees more than you care about the children. And that there's so much truth in that. But I've also come to realize that as you care for the earth and as you care for the land, you're also caring for the people that are sustained by it. So when you care for the environment, you're also caring for people at the same time. They're not really mutually exclusive like it's often posed. One of the big things that I've seen just locally for me is in and around Boston, that climate change is already having an impact where I live. So erosion is a big problem near us, particularly south of Boston, like on the Cape and on the islands. Right down the house from my grandparents, there's a section that erodes on average about 30 feet per season, which is an incredible amount. There's homes there, there's people's lives that are tied up to that area. The impact of greater storms and of the rising sea levels will increase the impact and make more and more people lose their homes. On the flip side though, I've also seen the positive impacts that sharing your faith in relation to climate change can have. So I was attending a showing of Racing Extinction and was able to meet with the director afterwards. And we started talking about different things, and I had felt it placed on my heart that I had to say that I was a Christian. Wasn't quite sure why, but decided to say that I was Christian, that I was interested in environmental issues. And it was really cool to see because around the room, one by one, everyone went around sharing their own story. And people were saying, I'm an atheist, I'm agnostic, but I've seen the church stepping in these ways, and it's really encouraging. So I think it's a great way for evangelicals, who are often known this day and age by the secular community as being against things, to actually be for something and to be seen as actively loving our neighbors. In all, I'm amazed and I'm saddened at how my carbon footprint can hurt the poor people around the world who often have a much smaller carbon footprint than I do. And so I feel compelled to act on climate change out of love for my neighbor and as an expression of my faith. So a couple things that I'm doing to lessen my own carbon impact are using reusable bags at the grocery store, pulling for groceries, and I've heard that my school does composting, so I'm trying to get a bin for my apartment this next semester. And then I'm also trying to start looking at bigger things and broader impacts. So things like buying carbon offsets. I took a large trip this past spring and I'm buying carbon offsets to help offset the carbon emitted in that plane ride. I'm also trying to sign petitions to show our lawmakers that there really are big changes that they can make that will really be helpful. And that's a large part of the reason why I joined YCA, is because I see that things on an individual level can't fully solve this problem, that we need a ton of changes in governmental levels to help fully address the issue. So I realize that no matter how much I do, it really is a drop in the bucket. Just my individual changes in my lifestyle don't truly fix climate change whatsoever. But I think that it's really important to do regardless, because as part of like seeking shalom, so seeking to have right relationships with one another, with the land, with everything around us, just living well with the rest of our world. So even if, me not using one plastic bag might not make a difference today, it still both builds to be a larger impact and is also a thing of character and of trying to live well with our world. So my hope for the church is that we become leaders on this issue as a tangible way of loving our neighbors.